95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona and away. Go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham is the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson, 6/10 lead at the moment.
J2ICS up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the J2ICS Cup Series. We are here today in Germany at the Hockenheim ring, and my name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here today. 1080p, 60 frames a second, as we gear up for some more exciting racing here for the J2I Endurance Series, as drivers currently underway with qualifying, setting the first laps of our 20-minute qualifying session that we have here today. Of the first 10 minutes of those 20 minutes, the LMDH class will be the only drivers out on the field at the moment. Once the 10 minutes are up, then the GT3s will finish out the qualifying session, and we will then get to see who is going to start where and how today's race is going to shape up. Currently looking along here with Simply Steve, the number 023 machine, just taking a look at some of the drivers around here as they go undertake qualifying here. And given that it is open qualifying, they are going to have to work their way around, as we see Captain CK just out of the corner of our eye. The number 50 machine taking a little bit of a ride for Team Love Seat there, but he is gonna think about his decisions there for a moment before getting started back going around the track here. But tuning in with the number 10 driver of Beaver, the co-driver, well, I shouldn't say co-driver, but the teammate of Captain CK, excuse me, there in Team Love Seat Beaver. Gonna see today what if Beaver here is going to continue the trend that we have seen so far here in the LMDH class, where, you know, Beaver has kind of been the driver to beat as far as, you know, wins are concerned. Very dominant driver here in the series, and so far he is the driver leading excuse me, actually I'm corrected. It's actually, oh boy, getting my names all mixed up here again. It's actually Eat My Dust that currently leads the LMDH class in points. It is Beaver that is in second place at the moment, but given his last race, it looks like he moved up 3 spots from where he was in points, and now is only 11 points behind Mr. Eat My Dust, the number 24 driver, who currently, as we're starting to see drivers come around the first time here today, we are starting to see what the pace is going to look like here for these drivers. As Void currently leads the pack with a 126.116 Eat My Dust, a 126.209. Urko in the third place spot with a 126.515. Beaver in fourth, a 128.082. And Gareth McAllister coming in a little bit behind the rest of the pack here with a 128.638. I'm sure it was probably an error on track that caused that. About a roughly about a 2-second deficit there for Gareth. And hopefully for both Beaver and Gareth, they'll be able to close that time down a little bit and bring it a little bit closer together with the rest of the field. But we'll just have to wait and see. Hockenheim Ring, one of those tracks that frankly I've raced it a couple times, but frankly I have not given it much attention since then, and I feel like I need to go back and revisit this track because it frankly is a great technical and fun track to drive. It's got a few little challenging spots in it, especially in the middle sectors where you really gotta nail your apexes. You really gotta make things kind of just click one after the other and try not to make as little mistakes as possible here. As we're watching again with the 5.0 machine of Captain CK for Team Love Seat, and it looks like Beaver going a little bit wide here. Looks like out of the hairpin, and that's probably something we will see throughout the night here. Again, we'll take a look at the track map here on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and you can see that hairpin that we just saw just a little bit ago there on the top, well, on the most right-hand side of your screen, if you will. And so as Void comes around the second time, he brings a 125.548 to be the time to beat, but that is also looks like to be sending things just a little bit dialed up, a little bit too spicy there, and he's going to have to take it back down into the pits and tell the pit crew to turn down the notches a couple tidbits here to get that car dialed up the way that he wants. And Eat My Dust also going to make his way down into pit road here as well. We're starting to see the top four, really, actually the top five, start to close in, like I said, in that time bracket where we're seeing about anywhere between a few tenths to a second maybe between these drivers. And we're still seeing if Gareth McAllister as well as, AJ and Urko are going to close the gap here a little bit. Urko's a little bit closer than where he was just a moment ago, so he's going to continue to push his way up the grid and going to try and secure as best of a spot that he can. And Gareth McAllister, right as I say that, coming across the line, he takes home a 126.449, but just 3 minutes left here in qualifying before we wrap things up, and we get to see where these LMDH drivers are going to start here today. And so far, the only two drivers here in the LMDH class that have yet to put in an official time, both DC and Sector. They have not been able to put in an official time due to various reasons, whether it's just an off track or exceeding track limits, one thing or another. There's usually something in that nature. But either way, these two drivers still trying to see if they can put a time onto the timing tower here and see where they can put themselves on the starting grid. Otherwise, they will start towards the tail end of the field. But frankly, as a bad sim racer myself, and I'm not horrible, but I definitely should be starting at the tail end where I'm not going to be risking anybody else's race. But all jokes aside here, Void continues to, I think he just, no, that's still the same time. Okay, never mind. But both Void and Eat My Dust, that is actually what I was queuing up, or at least seeing, was both of these drivers making their way out of pit road and back out onto the track here. So perhaps some changes being made behind the wheel of both the 25 and the number 24 machine. We'll have to wait and see if either one of these drivers are going to be able to improve their times with just about a minute and 30 seconds left. And whoa, Captain CK, I think might have gotten on the brakes just a little bit too much there, or maybe downshift. Honestly, I'm not even certain what just happened there. But Simply Steve, watching along here in the 023 machine, we're starting to see now potentially the last lap, or maybe last lap or two laps for these LMDH drivers, as right now it looks like, if all timing is, if all things considered, it ultimately won't matter too much in the grand scheme of things, but if a driver is going to be able to push their way up into potentially the front row, even the second row, that could be a huge advantage here. And I'm not exactly certain how the race start is going to kind of play out here at Hockenheim with these cars. It's definitely going to be a shootout heading into the fast right-hander of turn 1. Going to have to carry a lot of speed, a lot of momentum through there, and really where things are going to get choked up is that first kind of tight right-hander that you see in turn 2. So kind of a large chicane, if you will, that we'll see there, and that is where I expect drivers to kind of get, again, bunched up a little bit, and we will potentially see some packs form there, or even break up, if you will. So Void still holding the pole position at the moment with a 125.548. Eat My Dust in that second place position still, and Beaver in third. Those are going to round out your top 3 at the moment. I don't want to spoil too much here, as still things could shake up here with now the final laps being made here by the LMDH driver. I don't actually think they'll be able to take it across the line. I think they're going to have to make it down into pit road. So, unfortunately for any of the LMDH drivers that were hoping to improve their lap times here in qualifying, and not going to be able to do so, as now it's going to be the GT3 class's turn, as we are seeing practically everybody out here at the moment, with the exception of the 13 driver of Prince Adam, who does not appear to be in the pits or anywhere at this moment. He's probably still hanging out in the concession area, just grabbing some snacks and maybe a drink or two. You know, who knows? You get thirsty behind the wheel. You know, you got to have some snacks. You know, you get hungry. Anyway, and I would also just like to mention and give a huge shout out and a big thank you to James East for covering for me last week and taking over the show here for the Sprint Series that happened last week. A big, huge thank you to James, my esteemed colleague, good friend, as well as the guy who writes the checks for me, if so to speak. Excuse me. Throat is a bit parched today, as it would seem. Anyhow, it looks like the first set of drivers are going to start to make their way across the checkered line, and that's going to start their first hot lap of today's race, or of today's qualifying, and this will be their first time to get a good lap in, or at least to get those tires warm and get a good feel for things here. We're going to see those times improve over probably the next 2 or 3 laps for these drivers, so we're just going to have to keep our eyes on things and see how this is going to progress for drivers. And speaking of the GT3 field, it currently, oh boy, I gotta organize this here a little bit better for myself, so it's apologies, folks, as I am sorting some things out here on my end. And okay, so for the GT3 field, currently in the first place position is going to be Bar South 22, the number 75 driver, currently holding the lead in points after the previous race at Magny Cours. So Bar South 22 going to have a lot on his plate here today at Hockenheim. He's going to have to really keep his head down and try and secure the best position that he can. You don't necessarily have to win, to keep yourself in that points lead. You just have to finish with good points, and even more so, finish ahead of the your competition, which right now is going to be Mr. Biker Pilot, who currently right now, as we're starting to see drivers come across the line, currently in the 5th place position for the GT3 class with a 140.652, as his best time here at the moment. Remote Crawdad within the 606, currently setting the pace at the moment with a 138.550. That is the time to beat in about a fifth. It's going to be an interesting night here, folks. About 0.5 of a second behind Remote Crawdad is going to be Fuzzy Tacos in that number 17 machine. So he's got a little bit of room to work with here, Remote Crawdad, and if he continues up this pace here, if he's able to improve it this next lap by, which he is just about there, he may be able to push that even further. We'll just have to wait and see here as the 606 Ferrari makes his way through the final few turns, and it will make his way across the checkered line. We'll tune back in with that here in just a moment. Also looking at the third place position in the GT3 class for points is going to be going by the name of Brandon Dean. I have yet to perhaps I'm missing something here, but Brandon Dean going to be third in the points class, in the GT3 class here at the moment, only 12 points behind Bar South. So it is quite a tight points battle here for the GT3 class, as well as even the LMDH class here. So things are looking like it could be anybody's race here, and with only I have to go back and check here because I'm pretty sure there's not many races left here. After tonight, we will have, in 2 weeks, we'll be heading to Detroit Belle Isle, which is my home state track, so that'll be a fun one. And the final race will be the Crown Jewel at Fuji. So, after tonight, only 2 races left, and the points are still ever close for both the LMDH and the GT3 class. So, anything can still happen, and I think these drivers are all going to be looking to try and push as much as they can here in these final few races. You definitely don't want to overdo it. You definitely don't want to go into it with a hard head, I guess you could say, and assume that you're going to come away with a certain position or a certain number of points. You really got to take things as they come and just ultimately try and do your best as a driver. Things don't always work out the way that you want them to, but as long as you're trying, that's all that anyone can ask for. And Squilliam going to be now setting the pace with a 138.180, just about 0.4 of a second ahead of Remote Crawdad, who was leading the field here. Now going to give that over to his teammate Squilliam. The Woo-mates going to take the top 2 positions, the front row here at the start of Hockenheim for the GT3. At least that's what it's looking like with just under 3 minutes left here in qualifying. It's going to be a tough battle here for anyone else behind these two, as they're not going to make it easy to make passes happen here. But I wouldn't put it past both Fuzzy Tacos, Barsal 22, Nicolator. I mean, all of these drivers are, again, going to be looking for points. They're going to be looking to secure the best positions that they can. And here at Hockenheim, I mean, you really kind of got to play things a little, not necessarily safe. You've got a lot of long straights to work with. Patience, I guess, is the key word that I would use to describe this here. But I also just realized here as well. Okay, never mind. Nope, I'm thinking incorrectly here. I was, for some reason, thinking that this was the old layout of Hockenheim, but no, this is the, okay. I don't know where I got that idea from. Yep, that's not even a thing here. Okay, I'm imagining things. Alrighty, folks. Like I said, it's going to be a long night. Only kidding. It's going to be a lot of interesting events, I'm sure, once we get things kicked off here with just about a minute left to go here in our qualifying. The GT3 class going to wrap things up here in just a few minutes, or just a few moments, once the checkered flag is flown. And right now, it looks like oh boy, Bar South having some big issues here right out of turn 1, and that is not an ideal position you want to be in on track. But there it is, folks. That's exactly what I was expecting to see, is a lot of drivers just giving it all that they've got here in the final moments of qualifying, trying to do whatever it is they can to secure the best starting position here. And that's going to be critical here. After a certain number of laps here at Hockenheim, things are going to fade out. They're going to get steady, and it's going to be nearly, I say nearly, impossible to make passing happen here. You really got to be on your A game. You're going to be focusing more on capitalizing on driver errors, mistakes being made of the driver ahead of you, and so on and so forth. It's going to be a lot of basically a game of chess with multiple 100 horsepower vehicles. That's I guess that's kind of the best way to describe it here. And with what we've seen in the past here with these drivers at tracks like Hockenheim Ring, a technical track, I guess you could say, these drivers do quite well with keeping things grouped up and keeping the action exciting. I definitely am looking forward to seeing how Hockenheim is going to play in the favor of the folks here at J2Y, and how this race is going to play out here. And as the checkered flag is out here, we will now see the last remaining drivers take it back into their pit stalls. And we're going to go ahead and get ourselves ready to line back up here once more. And get ourselves ready to go for the start of our race here today. Hour and a half endurance here at Hockenheim Ring for what is race number 6 of the J2Y Endurance Series. I want to thank each and every single one of you who is tuning in here live. Both Megan and Kate here in the chat, as well as John, giving a shout out to Team Void, making sure that they're showing their support, their love for Mr. Void there in the number 25 machine for Team Arc Send It. And as we're just awaiting for our qualifying to wrap up here, I believe just one more driver remaining before we get ourselves going here yet again. And while we wait, we can take a moment to kind of run through our top, or never mind. So I guess instead we'll just go through it the correct way. Starting up in the front row of the LMDH class, it is Void and Eat My Dust. In the second row, you have Beaver and Simply Steve. Captain CK and Urko in the third row, with Gareth McAllister and AJ in our fourth row. DC and Sector taking up the fifth row here today. And that will round out the LMDH field. Starting off in the first row of the GT3 class and sixth row overall is Squilliam and Remote Crawdad. Moving up into row number 2, Fuzzy Tacos and Bar South. Row number 3 is Nicolator and Paper Bag. Row number 4 is Crew and Biker Pilot. Fifth row, Joel, Long Island Nerd and Garlic Dog. Sixth row, Book and McMurk. And last, and certainly not going to be least, I believe Prince Adam is actually doing race control. He still shows up here on our starting grid, but he is here in spirit. So that is going to be our starting lineup here today. And John, thank you for the kind words. I always appreciate it. I certainly do my best to bring, hopefully, the most entertaining action I can possibly deliver from the comfort of my home. Anyhow, we are getting ourselves lined up, and here we get a good look of our field, and we will see that iRacing Porsche safety car make its way and get ourselves ready to go for the start of race number 6 for the J2I Endurance Series. And off we go in a short drive to the front straightaway. And from there, the safety car will make its way back down into the pit road. And the green flag will be awaiting for the LMDH class to make their start here today. Void and Eat My Dust going to be right side by side with one another. And folks, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, turn number 1 going to be a very, very fast and tricky right-hander for these drivers. They're going to have to be very careful on the throttle and not overspeed themselves into the turn. And here we go. The green flag drops from the flag stand, and away these drivers go. Void gets off very well. Beaver, Eat My Dust go side by side. Simply Steve, Captain CK, the remainder of the field, they go single file. Up ahead, Beaver, Eat My Dust, gonna go nearly nose to tail. Captain CK goes to the inside of Simply Steve. He's gonna get out ahead. Captain CK now takes 4th, and that is going to be a good move for the number 5-0 driver. Void continues to push and continues to try and build on his gap, but Beaver right on his heels, going to continue to be on the trail here. Squilliam and the rest of the field in the GT3 are in action here already. We missed turn 1, but we're already seeing Remote Crawdad, Fuzzy Tacos, Bar South 22 all in single file line here as they try and track down the leader. A little bit of side-by-side action happening towards the back of the pack. It looks like Crew, the 737 Lamborghini, going outside there for just a moment. And also it looks like Book in the 056 Lambo going in for a sneak peek to the inside. He is successful in doing so, but not without getting in the way of Long Island Nerd there. I'm not sure Long Island's going to be too satisfied with that move, but you got to let bygones be bygones sometimes, especially when it's lap 1 of the race. Just keep your head in the game and ultimately just keep yourself in the race. That's ultimately what I'm getting at here. And Remote Crawdad, oh boy, goes off track just a little bit there. Fuzzy Taco's able to close the gap here. The battle for 3rd in the GT3 class continues to spice up here as they continue this fight going out of the final few turns here at Hockenheim. And across the checkered line, we tune back in with our LMDH class. Beaver, Eat My Dust, continuing this fight that we seen them in just a little bit ago. They go side by side here. Beaver, Eat My Dust is going to have the advantage, and Beaver gets contact from, oh boy, that is not what we want to see here. Captain CK giving it to Beaver. Oh, and Beaver gets spun around, having to recorrect and get back in line. That is a huge, huge moment here for Beaver. We'll see if we can get a quick look at our replay here and see just exactly what happened here on this one. Taking a look at Beaver in the number 10 machine. Tries to go for a switch up and gets contact from Captain CK to the right rear. Spun around and also making contact there. I believe that's Simply Steve. It was Simply Steve in the 023 machine also getting slowed down from that little bit of a collision there. Luckily, it wasn't race ending for Beaver. That's ultimately probably the best thing that he can take away from that, is that it's not putting him out of the race. You're not having to come down into pit road to fix things or even get a fast repair. I mean, coming down pit road is going to cost you time, and time is not something that you really have a luxury of in an endurance race. It's something you really have to be mindful of. You have to be very mindful of. As we're watching along here with Paper Bag and Barsal 22, the two teammates practically right neck and neck with one another. Heading down the front stretch here, 4th and 5th place at the moment. And right now, just looking to see how this field is kind of going to settle out now that we've gotten 3 laps in and already starting to see the LMDH field start to trickle their way here into some traffic as Sector, the number 95 machine coming out of pit road, he is going to get into the mix of some lap traffic here. Let's actually take a look at what happened here to Sector to cause him to come down into pit road, because I'm actually not certain. Oh, that curb, man. And folks, I don't know if you can see it right here. I'll pause this for just a moment, but if you can see it in the right-hand side of your screen where that curbing is, where it dips down, and I can even pull this back here just a little bit. We'll slow this down here just a little bit so you can see it in action. There it is. So the car gets unsettled right there, and it just gets worse. That little divot there in the curb, really, these cars are so low to the ground. Downforce is a huge part of these cars and how they function. And in order to reduce that downforce, excuse me, they really need to be as close to the ground as you possibly can get them. I mean, it's kind of similar to Formula 1 and also IndyCar in that regard. IndyCar not necessarily as much. They don't utilize downforce nearly as much, or if at all, if I recall correctly. But that's a whole other topic. We won't get into that, and I don't want to upset any of the IndyCar fans out there, so we won't get into that. But looking back at some other battles here on the track, we've got Simply Steve and AJ both having a little bit of a bout here. Simply Steve going to be right hot on the heels of the number 45 driver. Going to try and close it in here a little bit later on the brakes this time around. A good exit as we see AJ get a little loose there and having to recorrect it. That little correction of the wheel is enough to allow Simply Steve here to really get on the tail of AJ. We're riding on the nose camera here of the number 023 machine, and we kind of get a really good look at what it's like from the nose, I guess, of these cars. Great view of the 45 machine's rear end there. Adam, yeah, sausage curb strike again. Although, you know, arguably that curb is not anywhere nearly as bad as the curbs at COTA. I mean, holy cow, man. Those things are, they're literally spine breaking. I won't go into the details, but for those of you that are curious, there was a Formula Formula Women's driver that broke her spine at COTA. If you're interested in that, go look it up. That was a big bummer. So yeah, they literally have horrible curbs there. Anyhow, we got great action on our screens here as Beaver getting through some traffic, at least trying to, as well as Simply Steve, and he's right hot on the heels. Let's go ahead and ride on board here with Beaver and get some of the action in the passenger seat and get some of the adrenaline pumping for you folks at home, as he is just under a quarter of a second behind the 023 machine, trying to close that gap. And let's see if he's going to be a little bit later on some of these braking zones. Definitely trying to modulate that brake as much as possible, trying to slow himself down enough to not run into the back of him, but also keep himself fast enough that he can close that gap and try and get as good of an exit as he possibly can. And here, as bunching up, Simply Steve gets caught up right in the middle of the 3-wide sandwich, and AJ is going to be the one to come out on top of that one. The 45 machine, you see the gray and green there in ahead of Beaver in the number 10. Beaver trying to do all that he can to get in the preferred line, also try and just be in the mirrors of that 45 machine, and AJ is putting up some great defense here. Simply Steve as well also getting up in the mix here as Beaver goes wide. He falls back behind the 3-wide pack here. AJ gonna stay up ahead, And Simply Steve now going to be fighting off Beaver once again. Beaver is definitely having a rough time trying to work his way through this field. And frankly, Hockenheim providing some very good action, I think, for both us viewers as well as these drivers. I'm sure it is sweaty palms out there right at this moment, I would have to say, in a calamity of cars here. Oh, whoa! A big snap here from Beaver. Pulls it back together, but man, oh man, that looked nasty. Checking back in with our GT3 field here for just a slight moment. Nicolator Paper Bag side by side, and whoa boy, Barstow 22 we see off to the side of our screens. Getting into the wall, not an ideal place to be. And there it is, Nicolator, he stays to the inside of the 420 of Paper Bag. Paper Bag gonna have the inside line advantage. And oh, great moves here from Biker Pilot. Trying to stay on the tail here. Or excuse me, of Nicolator. Nicolator trying to stay on the tail of Paper Bag. And doing an absolutely incredible job of doing so. Oh boy. That LMDH getting a little bit close for comfort. I'm not sure. Trying to find out who that was. I believe that was Urko. Oh boy. Urko giving it a little bit too much beans here. And we're going to go 3 wide here. Almost it looked like there for a second. It only continues to get spicier here in the LMDH class as Beaver continues to fight his way back up to the front of the field. And Void, I mean, he's frankly probably just enjoying this at this moment, just not lulling in the fact that he doesn't have really hardly any competition to worry about at this moment. Biker Pilot now going to be closing in on the rear of Barstow 22. Biker Pilot currently 7th in the GT3 class as he closes in right on the bumper of the 75 machine. Hopefully going to be able to try and reproduce that one. Let's see if we can get a ride on board here with the number 42 driver, and let's just see what it's like here from the perspective of Biker Pilot. What a lap or two is like here at Hockenheim Ring, and just enjoy the sights and sounds here for just a moment. Well, that was a ride on board here with Biker Pilot for just a little bit, just getting a little bit of a better view of what it's like on board one of these machines and what it kind of takes to take a lap around Hockenheim, or at least a part of a lap here. And frankly, folks, I mean, I can't tell you enough how much I love just listening to the sounds of these cars, and frankly, I would enjoy getting to experience this for myself one day in real life. But luckily, we get to experience here and get to enjoy what it's like to see our friends here at J2Y rip some laps here at Hockenheim and see which of them is going to have the chance to claim victory here at Hockenheim. And so far, just to kind of run through our top 3 for both classes, and it looks like actually I might have missed this earlier, but it looks like Gareth McAllister also went down a few positions here below the top 10 here in the LMDH class, and was actually in the GT, mixed in with the GT3s. And I just kind of want to take a look here and see. Oh boy. So we're just going to back this up here. This was the opening lap of the race here, I believe, just after the start, and oh man, just catching the tail of, I believe that was Urko. And I think from that point on, just having to fight his way back up to the front. So very unfortunate situation here for Gareth McAllister, and hopefully he's going to be able to recover from that and be able to push his way back up the field a little bit further. Meanwhile, we see Paper Bag as well as his teammate Barsal22 starting to close in on the number 5 Mercedes of Nicolator. And looks like Paper Bag's going to try and find some room somewhere around Nicolator as well. We see, I think, Simply Steve, the 023 LMDH, trying to... Nope, that's not Simply Steve. I believe that is Captain CK. No, that is not Captain CK. Who in the world am I looking at? That's Sector. Okay. So Sector working his way through a little bit of lap traffic here as Paper Bag stays hot on the tail of Nicolator. Nicolator trying to do everything in his power to keep that 420 machine off of him, and right now it is not looking like an easy fight here for Nicolator. And right there, Paper Bag could have, he looked like he was trying to get an inside line advantage there some sort, but it did not work quite out in his favor, and he's got his teammate Barsal22, right on his tail. But Biker Pilot's going to look to the inside and maybe potentially put some distance between the two as he continues to fight door to door with, oh boy, Biker Pilot trying to give it everything he's got here, but he's going to fall back just a little bit. And that's going to give Barsal22 a little bit of room now to catch back up with his teammate. But I'm sure the fight is going to continue between these drivers. It does not look like that they're going to have any separation, at least too much, here before too long. Back up in the LMDH field, AJ, Simply Steve, and Urko all continue their fights here. Simply Steve tries to look to the inside, locks up the brakes. It's too much. Has to back that one off. He's going to try it again. I'm more than certain of it here at some point. And Urko's just kind of waiting patiently in the background, just waiting for the perfect moment to get around these two. And I think right now, Urko's just kind of, he's not even really putting too much pressure. Not that he really has many options to, but he's more or less just kind of a spectator to these two at the moment, trying to see if they're going to make any mistakes or ultimately see if he's going to have any options to make a pass around either of these drivers. And as we start to see more and more lap traffic get involved here, things could start to close up a little bit. And as we are looking up towards the front of the field now, we start to see Void and Eat My Dust and Captain CK all closing in to within roughly about a half a second, give or take about a quarter of a second between them. they are starting to close the distance between one another and really could start to see these guys start to fight. Oh, as Void goes off track, he has trouble. The 25 machine in the grass, having to recover. It is trouble for Void. Only down to third here in the LMDH class, but that is going to cost him severely, as now he's going to have to, he's now a 7.5 second deficit to Captain CK in that second place spot. So meanwhile, back behind them, DC Beaver, they're going to have a little bit of a fight. DC's going to lose out to this one as Beaver goes wide, takes the outside to turn 1 and able to make his way around the number 3 machine. And it is looking like Team Loveseat is going to make a swift recovery here in the early stages of today's race at Hockenheim Ring. Captain CK still holding on to that second place position now that Void has fallen down into that third place spot. Void is still showing some fairly decent pace here, but looking at Beaver's pace at the moment, it's showing that we could potentially see the number 10 machine start to put a little pressure on Void. Only roughly 4 seconds separating these two drivers at the moment, and it's only closing. So we're going to have to keep our eyes open on that and see if anything is going to develop from that point. But back here in the 7th place position overall, we still see AJ, Simply Steve, and Urko continuing their bit of a battle that we've seen on and off here, as they've had to work their way through traffic and ultimately bunching them up enough to where, oh boy, Urko, a big lockup, trying to slow the car down. And I remember reading in the chat before the start of the race here today, where drivers were kind of talking about the braking power of these cars, and I think they said in confidence that they could be a little more aggressive on the brakes with these cars, and I think they might have taken that a little bit too much to heart. It's not a horrible thing. We're seeing a little brake smoke here and there, a little tire smoke here and there. But I definitely think that they are definitely pushing the limits when it comes to the braking power of these cars. But rightfully so. That is the whole point of being a race car driver and being fast, is pushing the limits. So while it might seem like it's a little bit too much, it makes me chuckle thinking about that. Anywho, back up in 6 for the GT3 class, it's going to be 17th or 16th overall. The battle for 16th with Nicolator in that current spot. Biker Pilot just behind him, trying to close that gap here as much as he can within a quarter of a second at the moment. Gonna try and see if he can make a move here. Let's ride on board here with Biker Pilot and see if we can get lucky and get the move from the passenger seat as we work our way through the final turn and onto the front straightaway and across the checkered line. It will be lap 16 here for our current stage in the race, but still very, very early in the grand scheme of our hour and a half that we have here. Still have about 7 minutes to go before we hit that halfway mark, so still plenty of racing left to be done, and still plenty of opportunities for drivers to make some strategies, try and make something happen here, as we are going to expect to see drivers to make their way down into pit road before too long. And that could potentially shake things up here just a little bit, as we're starting to see some action back in the LMDH field, as Simply Steve gets side by side along with Urko. Urko gonna have to fall back, as he had, I think, not quite as good of an exit as he probably wanted, but Simply Steve's gonna take advantage of that. He's gonna move up into 7th. AJ also taking advantage of these two battling, and going to try and increase the gap between himself and these two drivers. But it seems like these guys are magnetized to one another, as they have not been able to break away from each other, it seems like, hardly at all throughout this portion of today's race. let's go ahead and I want to ride on board here yet again with Simply Steve and just get another looky-loo at what Simply Steve is doing here behind the wheel and try and get an idea of what his strategy has kind of been for attacking this gap between himself and AJ. Oh, big snap here from Simply Steve. And I think that was just a touch to the grass that caused this one. Oh, boy, Simply Steve's going to be hurt from that one. That is not what you want to have happen. But then again, you would rather it happen now than later, I suppose. Really, you don't want to have it happen at all. But if you're going to have it happen, you'd rather have it closer to the beginning of the race or, in the middle rather than right at the end when you're just about to cross the finish line. That's the absolute worst time to be in sort of those situations. As we tune back in to the 6th place spot, it's the battle for 6th as AJ and Urko, both, it looked like they both were touching there. Both of their cars just intertwined with one another, but nothing happened from it, at least from our perspective. AJ still going to be out ahead of the number 33 driver, and they're both going to have relatively similar lines here at this moment. I think Urko now going to try and get himself back in the position to try and make a pass here around the number 45 driver. And here we also see Squilliam, the leader of the GT3 class, getting some of the LMDH traffic around him as they continue their fight. And that is exactly the door that Urko was looking for as he looks to the inside. And AJ goes just a little bit wide on the exit. And there it is. Urko making the moves happen there. A little bit of a lockup there, but nothing too severe. Some smoke coming, but keeping that car stable and true. And Urko now going to try and capitalize on this position and try and improve his gap between himself and AJ. And back up ahead here in 3rd. This is exactly what I was fearing for Void. Beaver, the number 10 driver, now right on the tail of Void. Going to be putting a massive amount of pressure Beaver's showing very good ability to stay right on his tail and really being able to kind of mimic the line work of Void. And whether or not Void is going to be able to kind of defend his position here remains to be seen, and we'll keep an eye on that as things progress on. And we'll actually ride on board with Beaver from the tail camera for just a moment here, just to get a good look of Beaver making the chase here for 3rd. Beaver making some good moves to the inside of Void. Void's going to try and defend as best as he can. And it is nearly wheel-to-wheel rubbing here between these two. Beaver's going to try and take the wider lane here. Beaver getting up ahead into 3rd now. Void's going to try and respond. Gets up onto the curb. That's going to slow the car down. And now Void is left with no other option than to try and stay on the tail of Beaver and try and respond the same way. Give Beaver a taste of his own medicine, if you will. But that's if and only if Void can stay near the rear end of that number 10 machine. And frankly, I gotta say, it is looking like Beaver is just, he's on fire at this moment. I'm not sure exactly how he's managed to do it, but he has managed to work his way from all the way from the bottom of the field all the way back up here into third. And right now, timing and scoring showing that his pace is a little off of that from Captain CK and Eat My Dust in first and second, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he won't have that pace here in the very, very near future. And now that the field has pretty much settled out, in the sense that they're going to be at the point where they're going to be thinking about pit stops here in the next few laps. I'm not 100% certain when that pit stop window will be. I'd have to imagine it's going to be in the next few minutes at least, probably the next 5 to 10 minutes, maybe a little, I don't know. Like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, it's been a while since I have done a race myself here at Hockenheim, and it's frankly been too long, and I need to change that. But it is a good refresher to be here today for race number 6 of the J2I Endurance Series as Biker Pilot right on the tail there of Nicolator for just a moment, but having to break away there. I'm not sure if that was because he wanted to give the LMDHs some room or what the case might have been, but falling back to a little bit over a second now to Nicolator. So backing off there for just a little bit, and oh boy. That looked like it was almost going to get a little spicy there for a second, but everyone's keeping things nice and calm, nice and steady. Simply Steve right back on the heel of AJ. And he's going to try and go to the outside here. Maybe make it work. Goes way too wide. And he's going to have to fall back behind the number 45. But he's right back on the attack here as we go through the final few turns here at Hockenheim. We can see it here as we ride on the front nose camera of the 023 machine, and you can really see exactly where Simply Steve is braking as well. You can see also AJ's braking points as well very clearly from this camera angle. So you can see where Simply Steve is pushing, where AJ is pushing, and the opposite, vice versa. Tries to go for the slingshot maneuver. Simply Steve to the outside and gets the edge around AJ as they go nearly wheel to wheel. AJ still going to have the better exit and is going to retain his 7th place position for the time being. Simply Steve not giving up and is still going to continue his fight. Paper Bag is showing here in timing and scoring having some major boo-boos. We're gonna dissect this one. Oh boy. The 420 machine, I think, has maybe seen better days. Oh, that car is crab walking right now. Oh, that is okay. We're gonna have to oh, maybe he got tapped. Oh, no. Oh, oh, ouch. Ouch. I think Paper Bag is gonna need an ice bag after that one. Wow. So it definitely makes a lot more sense why the 420 machine is crawling, crab walking the way that it is. That was a huge hit to the wall, unable to slow down, and frankly, in true spirit of the Porsches in the iRacing service, I mean, they're just destined. They're just always trying to kill you in some way or another in the virtual sense. But Simply Steve, AJ, still right on one another's heels here, and Simply Steve is that one in 7th, but the AJ going to try and make that slingshot maneuver, and they're going to be side by side here, taking it down the long straight. It's a drag here into the sharp right-hand or the hairpin turn, and it's Sector, I believe here. No, that's Gareth McAllister. Actually trying to keep himself up in the mix of things here as well. Going to be down a lap at the moment as, whoa, what in the world just happened? Oh, no. Simply Steve just gets in, just goes a little bit too wide on the exit. Gets into the side of AJ, and it is just all she wrote from there. Both drivers getting spun, and looks like neither one of them gonna get into the wall. AJ in a very precarious spot, trying to regain his bearings here. And there it is, almost like clockwork. Multiple GT3 drivers making their way down into pit road. Barstow 22 going to be one of the first, along with Nicolator, Biker Pilot, and AJ as well, going to make his way down into the pits after that collision with Simply Steve. It looks like Simply Steve, however, is going to remain out on track and is going to keep racing. Frankly, it didn't look like there was too much damage done to the front end of Simply Steve's car. I mean, aside from getting spun around, maybe flat spotting the tires just a little bit. Not, you know, you can definitely keep racing the car, but I'm sure that, again, we're probably going to be seeing pit stops happen for our LMDH class before too long. I would almost have to predict here pretty soon. As the GT3 class leader, Squilliam's going to make his way down into pit road. The number 6 Ferrari with team the Woomates going to be coming down for the very first time this race. Lap 26 currently, but it's lap 22 for the GT3 class. Not that that's necessarily important. All that matters is that you come across the checkered line when the checkered flag is out. And that is pretty much all you need to focus on for these races. Don't necessarily need to worry about laps, just need to worry about getting to the end. Great view of the drivers currently out on track. Oh no. AJ having trouble here as well. The number 45 driver getting off track there for just a moment. Let's see if we can... Oh, just a self-spin, and luckily... Okay, there we go. Luckily able to get it to a stop before colliding with the wall. Last thing you want to have happen is some sort of damage done to the front end to where the car just doesn't want to drive the way that you want it to. It just doesn't feel right, and so on and so forth. But I believe we just missed Nicolator getting spun around here in the final turn onto the front straightaway. The number 5 machine gonna have to get himself resettled here and back up to speed. Biker Pilot, meanwhile, fending off Barstow 22. As Remote Crawdad, Squilliam's teammate, gonna make his way down into pit road here as well. As we're seeing Sector, no, that's not Sector. Void. Ay, ay, ay. Seeing Void make his way through a little bit of lap traffic here. Void still in that 4th place position just behind Beaver. And hopefully, for the sake of Void, he's going to be able to kind of capitalize on some pit strategies here. There's not really a whole lot that you can do in this scenario, given that the race won't see any yellow flags. There's not going to be any restarts of any kind, so you're pretty much left with what you have, and you kind of got to plan around that. No matter what happens during the race, I kind of have to have your mind open to any sort of possibilities and any sort of strategies. And frankly, I don't think many of these drivers are going to be coming into the race with a preset strategy of okay, we're going to do this, or so on and so forth. But I think a lot of them go into it with the mindset of we're going to attempt to do our best. As Barstow 22 makes his way around Biker Pilot out of the final turn, Biker Pilot almost getting a little loose from the back end there. And Barstow now going to be just up ahead in 4th place. And Biker Pilot going to try and bring that gap back, as all of these drivers now going to be fighting on fresh tires, and they're going to have a little bit more life to work with in them. Meanwhile, back up towards the front of the field, it's Eat My Dust, Captain CK. Currently having a little bit of a loose fight here for the lead, but I don't think it'll last for too long, as again, we're still expecting these drivers to make their way down into pit road. And I do believe that will be very momentarily. Nicolator doing very well there to spot, or no, that wasn't Nicolator. I believe that was McMurk. Oh boy, I might have been saying Nicolator the whole time. Anyway, McMurk doing a very good job of keeping clear of that lap traffic, or of the LMDH drivers making their way around. Very good sense of awareness that we're seeing here amongst a lot of these drivers, keeping aware of what's around them. And a lot of them as well, they're going to have spotters in their ears, giving them information of who's around them and where other drivers are in relation to them. So utilizing all of those things and making sure that you're doing your part to make sure you're not getting in the way, or at least being aware that there's other faster drivers around you trying to make their way around you. It's all makes things go a lot smoother in the grand scheme of endurance racing. And here it is, the first few LMDH drivers making their way down into pit road. It's Eat My Dust, Captain CK, and Beaver, all going to come down and get a fresh set of tires as well as fuel, and see what their next stint is going to look like, as we await to see what Void's going to do here on this strategy. And he's going to opt to stay out this time by. Whether or not he's going to opt to come in next lap or 2 laps from now remains the question at this moment. Void's kind of in a pickle where he wants to be in the lead. He wants to be back in this position where he's at the front of the field, but he's still got to figure out how he's gonna strategize this pit stop to, at the very least, not lose his position. So if you'll recall, before pit stops here, he was 4th place before now leading the race. So if he can go through pit road and come back out in 4th, then that, I would say, is going to be a very ideal pit stop here for Void. there it is, Void making his way down into pit road, and frankly, I don't think Void would want to stay out much longer, because at that point you're going to get diminishing returns on trying to stay out longer and getting every last bit of life out of the tires that you currently have, as well as squeezing out every last cubic inch of fuel that you have. I think Void is just going to try and get the best spot that he can once he gets himself back out of pit road. And Simply Steve now going to make his way down into the pits. So Void still in pit road. We're going to see if he's going to... There it is. The jacks go down and out the 25 machine goes back onto track, and right where I expected him to end up at. Yet again, back in that 4th place position. About 13.5 seconds separating himself and Beaver. So again, a lot's kind of stacked up against Void at the moment. So he's going to have to keep his head down. He's going to have to really focus on just clicking off nearly perfect sectors throughout this race. And speaking of sectors, let's actually take a look here and see what a sector time is going to look like here between both Void and Beaver. It's going to show right now that Beaver is going to be significantly faster because Void just made his way out of the pits, but we'll get a better idea of it once he makes his way around the second time. So here we see Sector 2, Beaver just about 0.3 of a second faster than Void. Let's see if in the final sector here that Void is going to be able to capitalize on some speed here. But he might also still be trying to warm up those tires, so it might be a lap or two before we see Void really kind of utilize these fresh tires to their advantage. And there you can kind of see that tire temperature starting to decrease as he's brought that sector time down to about 5/100ths of a second. So granted, they're different sectors, can't really compare the two, but that is a relatively good indication that that Void is getting the temperature in those tires, and it's starting to feel a little bit more grippier underneath him. He's going to start to feel a little bit more confident going into the turns and carry some more speed, especially on the corner exits, as well as through the fast turns that we've had here at Hockenheim. Eat my dust, Captain CK. They are starting to close the gap between one another, but also Beaver starting to climb his way back up here in the top 3, currently holding on to 3rd, but still going to be working to try and push his way just a little bit further, as he's only got less than 3/4 of a second to trail to the end of Captain CK here. Just taking a quick ride along with Beaver there for a moment as we saw him getting just to the tail of Squilliam there, and I got to tell you, that is a moment as a sim racer where you start to squeeze the wheel just a little bit harder than usual when when that starts to happen. Eat My Dust being in the hot seat right now, I'm sure is definitely feeling the pressure of both Captain CK and Beaver. I mean, both of these two are showing incredible pace in there. Captain CK on the curb just a little bit. That's going to be enough to slow him down and allow Beaver to get right on right next to him now. And as we are switching camera angles, Beaver able to make the pass around Captain CK, now going to be in second place, and showing, timing and scoring showing that he's going to have the pace to track down Eat My Dust here at this moment. So the 24 driver going to really have to lock himself down and avoid looking too much in those rear view mirrors, because at this moment, Beaver is going to be hunting to get into that first place position. Any opportunity, any open door that is going to be left here for Beaver, I think he is going to take it. And at the moment, continuing to close that gap, I think we will see that here before too long, as these two drivers continue this, what is right now a relatively loose battle, but will heat up here in just a blink of an eye as Captain CK tries to close back in here to the tail end of Beaver as they work their way around around traffic. Captain CK getting in a little bit of a spicy predicament here as we see Crew, the 737 Lamborghini, going through the final two turns, get a little sideways, and having to recover from that incident here as Beaver closing the gap between Eat My Dust. He's going to look to try and take the lead here potentially, as Captain CK looking to the inside of Beaver, going to try and see if he can recover his second place spot here. Captain CK, oh my, just a little too much. I believe that was too much on the brake there, and that just spun the rear end around. It might have even been a downshift. Again, I'm not experienced enough with these cars. I haven't driven them myself, but that could have been a downshift there that caused that. Beaver looking to the outside here, going to try and take the lead. He's right on the tail of Eat My Dust. Eat My Dust trying to keep his lines as perfect as he possibly can, not letting Beaver get into his head. And Beaver down the front straight away, going to try and take it side by side with Eat My Dust as he gets the draft. Eat My Dust going to have the better line advantage through the fast right-hander. And Beaver going to stay on the tail of the 24 machine yet again, looks to the outside. Try and get a better exit here through this chicane. Eat My Dust going to stay right ahead of Beaver here for this battle for the lead, as it continues to intensify between these two drivers. Eat My Dust looking to score a win here. Beaver looking to score a win and some points to put himself back into the lead for the LMDH Points Championship. Slight lockup here from Eat My Dust, and that's going to open the door for Beaver. And Beaver takes the lead for the overall position as well as the LMDH class. It is now the Beaver show. Will anyone be able to respond back here to the number 10 driver, or will Beaver be able to capitalize on his pace and start to build some distance between himself and the rest of this field, as Eat My Dust already down to a second behind Beaver and only increasing at this moment. Captain CK, meanwhile, showing that he's got a little bit more pace in the bag as he's starting to close in on the number 24 machine of Eat My Dust. And as I was reading, Captain CK goes for a ride here. Let's take a look at the replay, see exactly what unfolds as A gets around. Just, oh man. I'm assuming in that situation, just a little bit too much gas, too much throttle, and that's enough to get the rear end around. These cars have an immense amount of power behind them, and if you're not careful, if you are too greedy on the throttle, it can definitely come back to bite you. And I think that may have been what just happened here for Captain CK. Luckily only down, only in third position at the moment, so no real loss of position here for Captain CK, but what he did lose was that fight for Eat My Dust in the second place spot. So Captain CK going to continue to put the pressure on as much as he can, trying to work his way through traffic as things start to settle out here, and we really start to see the field kind of really spread out. Starting to see realistically most of the field not have any real battles start to form here, and we may not see any for a little while, as again drivers going to start to get to the point in the race where they're going to be focusing on just clicking off laps and not necessarily worrying about fighting for positions. As right now the only battle that we have here, AJ Simply Steve, going to be the only battle out here on track at the moment. And both AJ and Simply Steve have been fighting for this position for quite some time now. They really haven't been able to shake off one another, it seems like, for quite some time. And now, interestingly enough, we see Eat My Dust actually come down here into pit road. And I'm not 100% certain what the reasoning is for. A very, very quick stop here for Eat My Dust, but a confusing one, to say the least. But what I will say is that it gave the opportunity for Void to move back up into the top three. So Void, now going to be in that third place position, unfortunately now is going to be at risk of not being able to score enough points to stay in the points lead here for the LMDH field. So Void's going to have to, I mean, with now, we'll call it 30 minutes left, realistically about 30 minutes left here in our race, it's going to take a miracle for either Beaver or Captain CK to make any sort of mistakes or something along those lines for Void to be able to catch up here. And I'm not saying that it couldn't happen or that it won't happen, because it very well could. But, like I said, These things don't always happen in the favor of the driver, and I think for Void, he's going to be hoping for a miracle, but it's definitely going to be a tough one. But I will say, looking at his pace right now, he's showing that he has faster pace than both Beaver and Captain CK. It's just a matter of, is he going to be able to close that 10-second deficit that he's currently got to Captain CK, or is it going to be well, it's going to be a little bit easier said than done, I guess is what I would like to say there. Simply Steve, AJ continuing the fight here. AJ staying right on the tail, trying to get the switch up here on Simply Steve. And Simply Steve, he is, you know, not going to make it easy here on AJ. You know, and I've always wondered here that maybe it's just me, but Simply Steve, you know, I feel like he should have like a Simply Lemonade paint scheme on his LMDH. I feel like that it just makes sense. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just battling. AJ, Simply Steve, with this battle continuing to fight for 7th place, as they have been for quite some time. And really, it's quite surprising to me, personally, that these two haven't really broken away from one another. They've continued to stay in this fight for quite some time. While we have a little bit of a lull in the action, and while things have relatively settled out here, I just want to take a moment here. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching here today, whether it be during the live broadcast or if you're watching the broadcast after everything has been said and done and enjoying the action, you know, in your own leisurely time. Thank you all for showing your support and being here every single week and being a part of the show, and again, just being an active part of what we do here at not only Team Goon Squad, but the folks here at J2Y. It's great to see all the support from family members, friends, anyone. It's great to see people showing their support and their passion for sim racing, whether it's, you know, just someone that they love or they're friends with behind the wheel that they want to cheer on, or if they just genuinely love sim racing. I appreciate every single one of you. So with that being said, I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I hope to continue to see you all throughout the next few races that we have here. Again, after tonight, there's only 2 more races left for this endurance series. 2 more races left as well for the J2I Sprint series. So 4 weeks total. So for the next, call it a month, we will have we'll call it the month of J2I. That sounds, well, I guess it is June, so yeah, well, yeah, that works. That's brilliant. Perfect. Oh, and before I forget, let me reword this here. Before I forget, if any of you who haven't already and are interested and would like to show your support for the Just 2 Idiots Cup Series, and also support Team Goon Squad as well, you can head on over to our website, teamgoonsquad.com, and you can pick up some merchandise. You can pick up a J2I t-shirt, a sweater, a coffee mug, a sticker, whatever suits your flavor. You can purchase any one of those items, and 50% of the profit goes directly back to the folks here at J2Y to help them support, to help them continue doing what they do here. And whether that's league costs, you know, broadcasting fees, all that stuff, everything to keep the league going and to keep doing what they have been doing for quite some time now. Every little bit helps, and it is always genuinely appreciated. And it also helps us out over here at Team Goon Squad to also host our own in-house events and do all sorts of fun things that we try and do to help bring all of our communities together and just share the experience and the love of sim racing as a whole. So again, if you want to show your love, show your support, head on over to teamgoonsquad.com. Pick up a t-shirt, pick up a sticker. Anything is welcome, and anything is always appreciated. So for any of you that have already picked up merchandise or anything of that nature, thank you. We genuinely appreciate it. And if you would like to show us what you've got, you can also send it on over to the Team Goon Squad Instagram. I believe it's at @eTeamGoonSquad. Let us know if it's a t-shirt that you picked up and you do real life racing. You share it. We love to see it all. We try to be as interconnected with our communities and with our fans as much as we possibly can, and hopefully this is one way that we can do that a little bit more, I suppose. As right now, 25 minutes left to go in our race here today, and again, most of the field has settled out to the point where things are quiet, things are calm, and not much is left to be done other than just click off laps. And I believe we will see one more pit stop here before the end of this race. While things are calm, while things are steady, let's have one more listen to the sights and sounds here at Hockenheim, and let's ride on board here with Mr. Urko and just have a listen here to what the number 33 driver is listening to as he rips around the track here at Hockenheim. Just a little ride on board here with Urko as we enter into what will be our final 20 minutes of the race here tonight. And so far, still most of the field spread out, and as expected, it's going to be a matter of attrition. It's going to be a matter of just keeping yourself in the mix of things. As we see Garlic Dog here, oh boy, the 199 machine seeing some better days here. Let's take a look at the instant replay. Oh, gets on the curve, unsettles the car, and into the wall, a big smack to the front end. And that's going to have massive damage to the 199 machine. I'm sure that BMW is not going to be driving straight, at least very well. I'm sure that wheel is probably crooked at the very least. But while we have some time, let's go ahead and take a look at the start of today's race. Lap number 1, where things all started with Void in the lead and getting a very, very good jump on the rest of the pack. And here we see also Beaver, who ultimately had an unfortunate start and had to fight his way all the way back up to the lead where he currently sits. I believe right here is the moment where we see Beaver correction. That was a few laps later than that, but we can take a look at that right now. So here it was, Beaver and Simply Steve. Oh, Beaver and Captain CK, actually, excuse me. Captain CK getting to the inside of Beaver in not really any fault of Captain CK there. Really didn't. I don't think Captain CK knew that Beaver was going to come down the way that he did to try and get around Void, but unfortunately with how fast things happen in racing, you can't always predict those things. And here we see the GT3 field making their way down into the pits here for the final time. We see our leader Squilliam, Nicolator, Paper Bag, Long Island Nerd, all currently down here in pit road, and looks like Nicolator going to make his way out of the pit box and back out onto track here for what will be the last time, as we are just about 17 minutes left before the checkered flag is waved here today. Now, as we are closing in on the final few minutes, or really the final 15 minutes of the race here, Simply Steve now closing in on Urko, the number 33 driver. Also, meanwhile, back here in the GT3 field, Paper Bag, Biker Pilot, they're also going at it for the 6th place position here in the GT3 class. As all of these drivers now, they have made their way out of pit road. They're all going to be fighting on fresh tires. And there goes Biker Pilot, gets a little bit too loose. The 42 machine spun around and having to get recorrected here. A very unfortunate move for Biker Pilot here in the final 15 minutes. Oh boy, you can see all the grass right there too coming off. Oh man, a tough spot to be. Urko with a bit of a lockup there through the hairpin. Simply Steve going to be able to close the gap just by a little bit. Still not quite going to be enough to get to the tail end, but it is still looking promising here for Simply Steve. Riding on the front nose camera of Simply Steve as he's now within a quarter of a second of the number 33 driver. As we head into turn number 2 here, Simply Steve a little early on the brakes there, it seems like. Urko again, same corner, a little bit of a lockup that's allowing Simply Steve to kind of just chip away at this gap, but he's got to be able to keep that consistent pace through the rest of the sectors. And it is a tough game of back and forth, and now as Remote Crawdad makes his way down into pit road, a little bit of front end damage to that 606 Ferrari. That's going to give the lead back to his brother Squilliam for Team the Woomates. Both himself and Remote Crawdad have held onto the first and second place positions throughout the entirety of this race here in the GT3 class, and really no other drivers have been able to respond to their pace here. Fuzzy Tacos in third in the GT3s is well over a second. Well over a minute behind both the first and second place drivers here in the GT3. So Team the Woomates have been absolutely untouchable throughout the entirety of this race. So incredible for both of these drivers to be performing this well at this point in the race. Biker Pilot having some troubles here in the number 42 machine. He's parked it on the side of the circuit, and not in an ideal way. AJ also having some troubles here. The number 45 driver going to find himself off track. And there's Biker Pilot still reminiscing on debating his life choices, I'm sure. Simply Steve and Urko continuing this fight here for 6th place. Then Urko not showing any signs of letting Simply Steve get an easy pass on him here. And frankly, with 10 minutes left to go now, I don't think Urko is going to be in the mindset of losing a position here at this point. So with under 10 minutes left to go here, folks, your top 3 in the LMDH class: Beaver, Eat My Dust, and Captain CK. The top 3 for your GT3: Squilliam, Remote Crawdad, and Fuzzy Tacos. All 6 of these drivers have relatively held their spots for practically the entirety of today's race. So props to every single one of these drivers for their performances here today. Everyone did, I would say, phenomenally well here. This is definitely not an easy track, and it is unforgiving when you make mistakes. Timing and scoring showing Remote Crawdad went off track here for just a moment, but it does not look like it was much else other than just a minor off-track incident. We're trying to keep our eyes open for anything that might be of similar nature, as again, closing in on the final few minutes of the race here. It is any mistakes at this point is going to cost you dearly. And you can still see Simply Steve trying to push as much as he can. And Beaver coming down into pit road for why? Beaver comes down into pit road with about 5 minutes left to go. This is a huge switch up here for the leader, and it looks like it's going to be a very quick pit stop. And it might even just be a quick top off on fuel for the number 10 driver as he makes his way back out onto track here. just a splash and dash, as they like to say. As we're watching the battle continue between Urko and Simply Steve, as we have been for a little while now. As, again, currently the only battle happening out on track, as everyone else has been able to build up distance and has been able to get their own little piece of the track to kind of work with to finish out today's race. Urko has a big lockup in the hairpin. Simply Steve now right on the tail of the number 33 driver. He's going to try and capitalize on it as best as he can. It's been a constant fight here for Simply Steve. And every time it looks like the door opens for him, it just closes right back up. AJ's going to make his way down into pit road here as well. Some final pit stops being made here, and really I'm surprised as well to see Simply Steve. Something that I've just now realized is that Simply Steve, at this point in the race, he is literally right on the bleeding edge of his fuel strategy here at the moment. He came in lap 30. It's about to be lap 60. I don't know how much fuel Simply Steve has got left in the tank here, but it is going to be close. But the fact that he is hot on the heels of Urko, who came in just 14 laps later than Steve, is just absolutely incredible. And there it is, Urko with the lockup, and the door is open for Steve. And he walks away with the 6th place spot, but still has to survive the next 2 minutes before he can officially call it a day. And folks, this is going to be a close call here for Simply Steve, as he is going to be right on the edge, I do think, of fuel. But also other LMDH drivers that are running similar pit strategies. Gareth McAllister and Sector are both within the same region that Simply Steve is currently in, so maybe it's not completely out of the ordinary here, but rather just an unexpected move here that I didn't necessarily foresee towards the beginning of the race. But then again, shouldn't put it past these drivers. DC and Void now going to have a little bit of a battle as we enter into the final minute. DC locks up, going through the hairpin. Void gets the door open, moves himself alongside DC, and moves into the 5th place position. DC now going to try and find a response here as the clock is ticking, and that checkered flag is going to wave any moment. This will potentially be the last lap here for these drivers, as our DC has a big crash out of, oh boy. DC, a big wreck here for the number 3 machine, and that front end is completely gone. And those tires are practically just along for the ride at this point. And more wrecks continuing to happen here as we see, I believe that was AJ or Prince Adam. Paper Bag and Nicolator, they're going to take it side by side, and there it is. The checkered flag being waved from the flag stand, or the white flag being waved. It is the last lap. Nicolator with a big slide here. Everybody's under pressure now. And the checkered flag is waved, and Beaver comes across the line, taking home first. Eat My Dust in second, and Captain CK, he takes it across the line for third overall. Now all that's left is Squilliam, Remote Crawdad, and Fuzzy Tacos to make their way across the line here for the GT3s, and we'll have our top three there. And it looks like actually Fuzzy Tacos has already retired from the race. And there it is, a win for Squilliam. Yet another win for Squilliam. And Remote Crawdad going to take it across the line for second place. Fuzzy Tacos going to retain his third place position, I would assume. And that will be the case here, as now the rest of the field going to make their way across the line and finish out their race here today. And we are going to go ahead and get ourselves ready for post-race interviews. And on your screen now, the results for today's race. And first up that we're going to have in the booth is going to be Mr. Squilliam from the GT3 class. Squilliam, welcome back to the booth. Congratulations on yet another win here for yourself and Team Woomates. You guys absolutely killed it today. Both yourself and your brother, Remote Crawdad. I mean, you guys kept that 1-2 spot throughout the entire race. I mean, it was kind of like watching a Formula One race, you know, watching Red Bull out there. You know, it was like watching Max and Sergio out there. You guys just absolutely killed it. I assume that you guys put in a ton of practice before coming into there. Maybe you even didn't. I don't know. But point being here, Squill, I mean, you guys are on a warpath to come away with some pretty impressive victories here for the GT3 class in the Endurance Series. What's kind of been what's kind of your biggest goal right now with only 2 races left, and knowing that you're kind of the guys to beat right now, and you really don't have too much competition ahead of you to worry about?
Yeah, you know, it's, we're definitely still just going to keep doing what we're doing, try to keep towards the front as much as we can. Unfortunately, I don't think we're actually doing that well in the team standings. We had a bunch of personal life things come up. I had to miss some races, and then, you know, I had some incidents and lost out on some points in the beginning of the season as well. So, you know, definitely unfortunate that I don't think we're going to be winning the team championship like we were hoping to. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're both doing it because we enjoy it. And, you know, we're going to see what we can do still and keep trying to push and win some more races.
Well, Squill, I think you just made me realize how much I've learned everyone's names, because I still don't know everyone's names. Either way, you guys have both done fantastic, and you both just absolutely did incredible here at Hockenheim. I know you mentioned you missed a couple races. What's kind of your plan here for Detroit, and do you plan to be there for Fuji for the Crown Jewel?
Oh yeah, definitely both of those. I will be attending, and I'm very much looking forward to them. Detroit is such a difficult track when it comes to multi-class, and I think it's gonna lead to an interesting race for sure. And Fuji is just a classic multi-class track. It's going to be interesting. I've only ever raced it in multi-class, being either in the LMP1 or the BMW LMDH. Did that this past weekend, which was super fun, but never in like a GT style car. So I'll definitely need to put in some good practice for that. But yeah, definitely looking forward to both of those races. I think they're going to be a lot of fun.
I certainly look forward to it, and I certainly hope to get to talk to you again as we move forward into next week, or excuse me, as we move forward to Belle Isle. But Squill, before you head out, before you crack open a cold one and celebrate, is anyone watching the broadcast or at home or in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank before you go?
Yeah, shout out to Matt. He ran a super good race as well. He had some incidents, and so did I. But he put in a lot of work to get his pace up this week, and did a really good job in the race as well. And then shout out to all of my buddies in the Chum Bucket, as we call it, our Discord server. A lot of real life friends that I heard were watching the race together, cheering me on. So they're always being really supportive, even though none of them have anything to do with racing. So shout out to those guys for rooting for me, and Matt as always.
Absolutely. Well, Squill, I want to thank you for joining me up here in the booth. It's always a pleasure getting to chat with you. I look forward to seeing you both next week in the sprint, as well as 2 weeks from now for round number 7.
Of course, man. Look forward to talking to you again, hopefully.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
You too.
Alrighty, folks, so that was Squilliam out of the booth, taking home the win for the GT3 class, and last and certainly not going to be least here, the man of the hour, Mr. Beaver, coming home with the overall win here at Hockenheim for race number 6. Beaver, you probably had one of the toughest starts out of any driver here in the field. First lap, everything seemed to be going well, and then lap 2, you get side by side with, I believe it was Captain CK going into the hairpin, and I don't think he realized that you were going to kind of cut in there a little bit, but ultimately you had to fight your way all the way back from the back of the field all the way to the front. You had a long night here, Beaver. How are you feeling?
Yeah, well, first of all, that incident at the beginning was definitely just an incident. There's a million places anyone could have gone, and there was just the one scenario where we all decided to meet in the middle. But it didn't look to affect Captain CK, my teammate, so that was good. He kept running up front for a while, and I guess it gave me some motivation to really push. I do like working through the field. It's a lot of fun, even if I can't make my way through the field. It's just fun to chase someone, right? So I was slow and steady. I got to race just about everyone. There was a fun bit towards the beginning with Steve, Simply Steve, and AJ. And then when I got to the front, it was Eat My Dust and Captain. So yeah, I got to race a little bit of everybody throughout the race, and I thought that was a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was definitely fun watching you move your way through the field. It was incredible seeing the pace that you had here tonight. Now, kind of carrying this momentum forward, I'm sure that you're definitely going to do well going into Detroit, but what's kind of your expectations there? Do you expect kind of the racing to be a little bit more chaotic, less chaotic? What's sort of your outlook there?
Yeah, so I've never driven the track. I don't own it, so I got to get it. Got to get some laps in, but I think multi-class is going to be very interesting. If I had to guess, it's probably like a little bit bigger Long Beach. And I think those technical street courses work in my favor. I think the more technical the track, the better I feel like I do with them. Tracks like this, which I consider flat and kind of uncharacteristic, are boring and not my strong suit. But yeah, technical tracks, rough, bumpy, small margin of error tracks where the wall can kill you in an instant. I love tracks like that. So I think with enough practice, I think I'm going to do okay there.
Well, Beaver, I certainly look forward to it. It's always been a pleasure watching the number 10 machine out there just ripping laps and really doing well this season. And now that you've secured this win here, I believe that puts you up ahead of Void in points yet again for the LMDH class. So hopefully you'll be able to carry that forward going into Detroit. But Beaver, before we end things out here, before I send you off and do your celebrating and cracking open a very, very well-deserved cold brewski, anyone you want to shout out, anyone you want to thank before you go?
Big shout out to Captain CK for making the podium. I know he's had the pace all season, and finally tonight he put it all together. So Team Love Seat on the podium. I love to see it. Good job, Captain. And then a special shout out to Gamer Girl. Thank you for choosing me as your favorite driver and not your fiance Nicolator.
Well, on that note, well, Beaver, thank you for joining me up here in the booth, man. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you in the next coming weeks and maybe even possibly this weekend? Question mark?
If it's on a Saturday, I have to race in real life, unfortunately.
Well, real life racing takes precedent over sim racing, so I understand. But I certainly look forward to seeing you in the next couple weeks regardless, and hopefully I'm assuming we'll probably get to talk to you again before the season's over.
Yep, looking forward to it.
All right, Beaver, good luck to you this weekend, and hopefully get to talk to you again next week.
All right, thanks, Mason. Take care.
You as well. Alrighty, folks, and that is going to do it for us here tonight. 1.5 hours here at Hockenheim Ring, race number 6 of the J2Y Endurance Series. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in here tonight, and if you enjoyed what you saw, you know what to do already. Hit that subscribe button, catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad 7 nights a week, and also hit the like button if you liked what you saw. Lets us know that we're doing an okay job. And if you are interested and want to be a part of the action this weekend for the Team Goon Squad Endurance Series, the final round of the A portion of our season for our Endurance Series, we are having a 3-hour race at Le Mans. And if you are interested, head on over to the Team Goon Squad website, join the Discord, and you can find all the information there. It starts 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, so if you would like to be a part of it, head on over to our website, join up the Discord, you can find all the information there. As always, folks, my name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here today. If you want to show your support for both Team Goon Squad as well as J2Y, head on over to our website, teamgoonsquad.com, pick up some merchandise, a t-shirt, a hat, or a mug, a sticker. 50% of the profits go directly back to J2Y to help them keep doing what they're doing. Thank you all for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Oh, Pearson gets it in the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Borcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got 3 wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Let's go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the 1-on-1 up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 the lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.